But why doesn't she talk? This is the story of Alicia Branson, who is our silent patient, by Alex Michaelides. And this is the story of Alicia and her psychotherapist Theo Faber. So I know कि ये बड़ा different sound करता है कि उसका psychotherapist और उसकी क्या story है. But the thing is that Theo Faber is the person who is actually telling us the story, and he says that he is the only one who can make her talk. So let's see, why isn't she talking and why does he think that he can make her talk? So when in the beginning I had heard of this book, I always thought that this is gonna be about someone who was not talking because of some physical trauma. But this story is about Alicia, who hasn't been talking right after the death of her husband. And it wasn't any, like, natural or accidental death, it was cold blood murder. And the thing is that she was found at the site as the culprit, holding the gun which was used to, like, shoot at him point blank. Is the reason it can make somebody or anybody go in shock, and they may not be able to talk. But then it's been so long that it's been years that she is unable to talk. So Theo is here to find out if she is unable to talk, or is she not talking at all due to some other reason, or she's like protecting someone. So the fact about this is also very, very much related to a Greek mythological character called Alcestis. Now, Alcestis and Alicia's name also sound very familiar, so I liked that wordplay in this book. And also, Alex, the writer, made sure that when you are reading this book, you might feel like, oh, I am gonna find out who was the actual culprit and what was this all story about. But the thing is that he lets you believe that he you actually don't find out like what's actually going on unless or until the writer actually had intended for you to find out. And that blew my mind. I loved that point about this book, and I wasn't expecting at all what's actually gonna be the truth and what she was hiding. But apart from that, I would like to tell that she was silent because of many other reasons, and one of them being that she had always struggled with, mental issues like this, which she used to think that she has, and like, paranoia and schizophrenia and stuff like this. And she was even like diagnosed by that. Even her husband, who actually she used to love a lot, was found dead, and he used to think that she really needs help. So what actually happens is that, like I told you, that this story is very much related with the mythological character, and this is the reason how it is connected. First of all, Alicia, our heroine, is a painter who used to love paint her own husband. Like, she was immensely in love with him. And that's also a similarity between her and that Greek princess Alcestis. She was like madly in love with her husband. Like, she would literally die for him. And the most interesting thing is that she actually did die for him, the mythological princess. The thing is that, but when she did die, she came back from the underworld later. But when she came back, she didn't speak. She didn't speak a word afterward. She was muted, and that drove her husband crazy. So now you're getting my point, that it can happen with someone who is actually in love with you, but when they get betrayed by you and they see that you have betrayed them, then they might like shut themselves off from the entire world, and they may not ever speak again. And this is something what happened with Alicia Branson. But Theo Faber, her psychotherapist, was so much involved in her case that he wanted to make sure that if she cannot or would not tell him the truth, he would find out it himself. And then there it comes, the actual diary of Alicia, where he finds out different people, different men who betrayed her. And it's not that those men betrayed her romantically. It's more like whenever she had a male figure in her life, including her father. They shunned her, they, like, broken her trust. They made sure that, she goes through a lot of pain. And all those things were not the part of her husband Gabriel. He was the only man who actually understood her. But like I told you before, she was going through a lot of mental problems because her mother had committed suicide when she was little. And there were like a lot of different things, a lot of traumas which had happened in her life, that her husband Gabriel was the only escape she had. And she thought, like, he is her survivor, and she actually used to think that he is Gabriel, the angel in her life. But what happened, that when he breaks her trust, like, she was just destroyed. And how he broke her trust, that I cannot tell you, because that's the main part of this story. And this is how you get to know that, why Theo Faber was too much interested in their story. But I would love to tell a couple of one liners which were used before each part of this book, because this book is divided into five different parts, and each part has, like, 10 to 15 chapters. And like, each one liner kind of explains what we should expect in that part. And one of them is by the father of psychotherapy, Sigmund Freud. Unexpected emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. So, yep, that literally happens in this book. And the last part of this book had this written before it: if I justify myself, mine own mouth shall condemn me. Job 9:20. So this is a line, this is a verse from Bible, and it kind of reveals what was the reason and who was the person who was making Alicia silent, and how she started talking again, and why did she paint that particular painting, which was called Alcestis. And I believe I didn't explain it to you guys. When her husband died, and she actually never talked about it to anyone, and everybody thought that she is the culprit because she was found there with the gun, and no sign of a third person there. She was sent to a mental asylum called Grove, where Faber actually transferred himself to become the part of her therapy. And that painting showed a naked girl standing exactly at that sort of murder scene where her husband died, and her hands had cuts over it, like she also tried to kill herself. And that was the truth. She herself tried to kill herself, but she couldn't. And when she couldn't, she, like, closed herself off, just like Alcestis, and it drove the entire world mad. And that's why she named that particular painting Alcestis. And from there, Theo Faber was like, I need to know what's going on in this woman's mind. But I cannot tell you more about this. And but I can tell you another thing, why Theo was too much involved in this case, is because he himself was a psychotherapist who had a horrible childhood. And he used to think if he would become a psychotherapist, he might be able to help other people who are going through a very, like, difficult situations, and they are in very difficult predicaments, and he might be helpful. But I guess his trauma was never resolved. And I guess you guys are getting a hint, but I'm not gonna reveal who was the actual culprit and what happened in the end of this book. But yeah, you guys can always let me know what you think. And yeah, do give it a read if you guys like cool mystery. And I believe soon they would have a movie on this book, because it's movie material. So yeah, have a great night. Bye.